Episode of the Relevant Recruiter Show. Today you get just me, Donnie Gupton. As this thing gets rolling, let me know that you can hear me. Go into the comments. Let me know where you're at. Where's everybody at today? Where are you at around the globe? Drop in the comments where you're at. Give me a little like or thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear me. As we get this thing started today, we're talking about business development. So I'm going to give this a second to get rolling because LinkedIn Live is always fun when it gets started. So if you are here with me, please let me know. All right. I see some folks starting to come in. So what we're not going to be talking about today, just to save you a little bit of time, is we're not going to be talking about cold calling. We're not going to be talking about setting up a bunch of automated emails. We're not going to be talking about your personal network. All of those traditional approaches just aren't as effective as they used to be. And so today we're going to just talk about a very specific direct outreach strategy that my clients are using right now to generate more opportunities for them in this down economy. Now, some of you guys may not be facing some of the same pressures with business development as others. You know, I'm pretty well aware of that with people in my program. Some people are very busy still. Probably one of the most interesting markets out there. And there's certain people that are out there just trying to find some business. So for whatever reason, I can't get this to go up on my LinkedIn. So give me a second here, folks, and we'll dive into this training today. All right. Come on, work with me. All right, forget about that. So let's dive in. So the first thing that we need to cover here is really taking the time to understand your core target market. This is the number one thing for effective business development. It's also the number one mistake that I see a lot of recruiters making, and especially those that have had success with some of the traditional old school outreach, or just a lot of success with their network, or they've had like a lot of key accounts that have maybe gone away during this time. And so if that's you, then you really want to take the time to really recalibrate and focus on an ideal client. And the reason I say this is a little bit different thinking is because a lot of, recruiting agencies, traditional, focus on talent first. And well, does this company, have open positions that I can help them fill? And so more of the modern approach and more of what's effective now is really providing and presenting yourself as a solution to a specific market. It's less to do with your ability to fill positions. That kind of focus and staying focused on positions is going to keep you stuck in kind of the noise of being just another recruiter in the marketplace. And so, to start and to have effective business development outreach, it is to know exactly who you're reaching out to, having clarity and identifying an ideal customer profile. And ideally, again, positioning yourself as being the solution to their challenges. Okay. So different ways to look at target marketing could be, through industry. It can still be through, positions, but making sure that you're solving and filling positions for specific positions or departments, accounting and finance, for example. All of those things are fair in terms of like ways to niche out, even if you're going to be kind of, the local expert in terms of targeting. But the targeting for you creates clarity so you can stay consistent with your outreach. And what that's probably the number one thing is if I don't know what I'm doing, I think most people just tend not to take action. So having clarity of your ideal customer is the key foundation with everything. Okay. So that's the first thing that you want to work on is understanding what your ideal target customer looks like. Once you understand what that is, the company profile, is it a small to medium sized business that has, one HR person and no internal recruiting team? Is it, a Fortune 500 company that has a huge, robust HR and multiple recruiters? That's why the target marketing is so important, because when I'm positioning myself as a solution, I can talk about common pain points. The pain points of hiring and frustrations that people are experiencing in the Fortune 100 are a lot different than what they're experiencing in those small to medium sized businesses, just because of their actual experience in their business. So, once you understand your target market, then your next thing is really understand the common pain points, common challenges, and frustrations. Because the whole key here, and this is again more focused on not like I provide this specific, I've got this most placeable candidate here, is now I'm going to start to position myself to be a solution to those challenges. Okay. You start to tailor your services to, meet these challenges of what's going on in their organization. Okay. So that's got to be the first foundational thing, is understanding the target market, understanding their specific challenges within that market, so that you can present you as a solution to those challenges. Okay. And that's a big part of how you want to position yourself as a recruiter, is not to just be a recruiter, but to be a advisor, somebody that can, do more for the organization other than putting the body in the seat. Okay. And this is how you can really separate yourself from the competition, is by understanding your market, understanding their pains and problems at a deeper level than they do, so that you can articulate that. Okay. So there's, over 40 people joining me right now as you're listening to this live. And I would imagine that some of you right now have inconsistent revenue months, because business development is 100% manual. Because you have inconsistent revenue months, it might make you feel insecure about your business, maybe even make you question about, if you're going to stay in business or not, probably preventing you from hiring that next person, because you have one good month, you're ready to hire, but then the next month is slow. This is an indicator that you have a problem with your business development and marketing strategy. That's something you need to solve. Okay. So I'm able to articulate and talk about your day because I speak and live and breathe this market all the time. Okay. Understanding the target market, understanding key common pain points, understanding the outcomes and the consequences of those pain points are going to help your messages coming through. Okay. So that kind of brings us into the next step, is, well, who should I target? Now that I start to look at, I have this target market, well, what tools can I use to actually find these people? And there's a lot of them out there. Well, the easiest one, Sales Navigator. Okay. Sales Navigator, if you're not using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, it's an excellent tool. You can target accounts, you can target specific individuals, you can target companies that have increased, headcount growth in certain departments, revenue growth. So Sales Navigator can give you good indicators of when companies are hiring. So that's one tool that you can use for actually doing research to find your actual target market once you know who you're going after. That's, I think, the most obvious, easy one. The other ones that are out there, the one that I've really been helping my clients leverage lately is the AI stuff. So ChatGPT and Google Bard. If you really learn how to utilize these tools, you can find companies that have, open job positions online, companies that have, new products that they're launching and developing. So you can do research and reach out. What you want to be looking at, in my opinion, is, well, what are the indications of hiring, and especially in the future? Okay. Obviously there's a bunch of job boards. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So you can go to Indeed and Monster and even the LinkedIn jobs and, scour companies that way and find your target market that way. There's a lot of data scraping tools out there. So there's a lot of different ways, to identify companies. The other things that I like to look for is companies that are being funded. Typically if I'm getting funded, that means I need people and growth. And then also looking for companies that are on fastest growing lists, right? Companies that are on fastest growing lists. You don't just make it on those. You have to apply to be on those. That means the company takes pride in their growth. They want people to know that they're on the Fortune 100 or the Inc. 5000, for example. And that is also an indicator that, hey, if you're growing, it usually means you need people. Okay. Going back into the job board thing. I would never say not to use that strategy where you can find an open position and reach out. Here's where I think it's incredibly flawed. First and foremost, you're putting yourself in the most competitive waters. Literally everybody right now is doing that. So everybody's out there looking for the lowest hanging fruit. Let me go find somebody that I can reach out to and, send my direct messaging. Hey, John, I noticed that you're hiring ABC position. Well, you've just put yourself into a highly, highly competitive market, right? You're just swimming with all the other recruiters out there. And so you better have the best message in town to capture the attention of the audience at that point in time, because you're just being a part of the competition. So again, I'm not saying to stop doing that, but I also want to introduce you to the way I think about this, and maybe this gives you a little aha moment, is when I start to reach out to a company that's already hiring, I've just positioned myself as being an order taker. I've positioned myself as being kind of, desperate in a way. And so what I mean by that is, if 9 times out of 10, if you go and you see ABC company and you reach out, say, hey, John, I noticed you guys posted on LinkedIn that you have this, controller position open. My company does blah, 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 blah. They've already gotten that message 15 times. We've already talked about that part of it. Okay. But the other part of it is now you are in react mode for a position that their internal recruiters may have already reached out to a bunch of candidates. Other competitors have already reached out to a bunch of candidates. And guess what? Now you're just competing against everybody else's work in town. So maybe they give you the job order, but you're just another recruiter to them. Okay. Where the bigger opportunity is playing the longer game, where I can then, and this is really, really important for those that are trying to shift their business into being more valued and being more of a partner, an advisor, and not so transactional, right? And so the reason why this is important is because if you can come in before they hire, then now you can consult and advise and help them implement best practices with hiring, which now you're adding a completely different set of value to the organization. Similar things we talked about last week on the podcast with Will McGee. If you didn't watch that one, make sure you go back and watch it. Similar type of an idea here. Okay. But if I'm ahead of the game, then I'm going to get more of the opportunity to get some sort of an exclusive or retained or monthly recurring revenue, like we talked about last week. Whatever it is, I'm not married to whatever business model you guys want to have and implement there. But the bottom line is when you're ahead of the game and you're able to reach these customers before they hire, then you are going to have a lot more success in terms of making money. Okay. So again, being clear, if you're doing the job board thing and it's working, then, if it's not broken, don't fix it type of a thing. Right. But if it isn't working for you, then consider looking at other evidence of hiring, funding, fastest growing companies, things like that. That's another way, to really target people when it comes to outreach. Okay. So we've talked about the target market. We've talked about understanding their pains and problems. We've talked about, reasons for, finding people through Sales Navigator, job boards, fastest growing companies list, things like that. Okay. So now it's time to reach out and what the heck do I say? Okay. Well, this goes back into that pain problem. This also, when I'm using something like a funding, gives me a talking point rather than, hey, I saw you have an open position. Okay. So what I want to do is tailor my message to a potential challenge that they might be facing within their organization, or that directly relates to the recruiting efforts. Okay. And, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach this. You can go for the jugular, which is like, hey, I'm going to be really direct. And if you're going to do that, then the message needs to be hyper personalized. Okay. A lot of you guys know me from automation. I love automation, believe in automation, but you need to be changing the automation strategy. If you're fully automating now, it's going to be an uphill battle. Okay. The magic here is kind of a personalized, automation strategy where you're leveraging personalized messaging and you're using automation to do some of the grunt work for you in terms of the delivery. So going back into the message part here, I'm tailoring my message to a specific pain problem that these organizations have. And if I'm focused on a target market, then I know this, like the back of my hand. So one outreach message could be that jugular. Another outreach message might be, I'm going to just offer some value. I'm going to do a little bit of market research to these people. And this is really where you have to have a great pulse and understanding on your market. I've done some trainings before where I talk about, if you're always selling, then you're usually cutting out 97% of the market because only 3% of the people are actually buying certain things at a time. And in our world, only a small percentage of people are hiring. So if our message is always talking about selling and hiring, how we can be a solution, guess what? I lose attention. And especially in slower markets like this, if you're coming in and for a fact that your market is not hiring at a very high level right now, and you're coming in presenting yourself as a solution, and you're not getting responses from that, it's probably because your message you're not meeting them where they're at. So where is your market right now? What are they facing? What are the specific challenges that are going on in the industry? And how can you go in and present yourself as being a resource? So that's the other way to approach it, is reaching out, talking to a specific pain point, creating a resource that you can deliver for them. So now you're a value add. Now you've captured attention, and I'm playing more of a longer game here. Okay. So before I keep on going, I want to make sure you guys can go in. If you're liking this, tap that a little bit, go in, let me know in the comments what you like so far. Let me know if there's anything you want clarity on. I'm going to continue to go. So what does this messaging structure look like? Well, the first thing you want to do is have a great hook. Okay. So I'm going to probably tie that hook around to their main pain point. So it might be something, and I'm going to make this up here, so none of this is true. But let's say you're in sales recruiting, and let's say you're in tech sales recruiting specifically. And let's say that we found a stat online, and that stat is going to hit the pain point. So let's say there's super high turnover in tech sales. So you would reach out and be like, hey, John, according to ABC, tech sales has, huge turnover and, really have a hard time sticking with tech organizations. So I know that's kind of a lame hook, but follow me here. So we're using a stat to kind of hook them, shock and wow them, and then I'm going to relate to them. And then it's like, hey, a lot of the executives that I'm speaking with are sharing with me blank. Okay, so now I've related to them. Okay, now I'm going to kind of connect my solution to them. And this is where I just softly say, hey, my company does XYZ to solve this type of a problem. And then I can come in with a very specific call to action. Hey, why don't we hop on a 15-minute phone call, next Thursday at 2, so I can understand your unique challenges more specifically. And, from there, we can decide if we need to set up a more deeper call. So that's kind of a foundational message. If you hook, relate, connect, and then give a nice call to action. Okay. And then that would give you something that you can reach out. And that one's going to be more if I'm going aggressive. So the other thing could be like using a similar type of hook is like, hey, according to abc.com, sales professionals in the tech space are harder to find than they've ever been. And talking to a lot of the tech leaders that I work with, they're echoing, that sentiment. So my company, helps IT, consulting firms develop radically profitable sales teams. And we've recently created this resource on 5 hiring mistakes to avoid for tech sales talent. Let me know if you want a copy of that. So now I can come in and I can capture possibly more attention with my message, and then I can start to build on and nurture that. Okay. So if I take my pain points from my customers and either present my company as the solution, is kind of your jugular approach, your most aggressive approach. Okay. If I take your pain point and I connect that to a resource I can provide you, that's kind of my more long-term, my resource approach. Okay. But the other things, if we're just going to throw a couple more, hook points for you guys in here, is like, hey, John, I noticed I was doing a little bit of research online. I was looking at your company, ABC. I noticed that you guys recently just received a round of funding. Congrats. I also doing a little bit of research. Looks like you guys have a couple of exciting projects, coming up, specifically that one about XYZ. And then come in and start to present your solution. So today, what is really, really working is that personalized message. And all you need to do is do that extra step. If you're going to do the job board chasing and you're going to go after those things, then give more. Don't just say, hey, I noticed you have this position and I have these types of people, or I noticed you have this position in open. We help people do that. Like, go give stats. Like, hey, John, noticed you have this position open. I've also noticed that it's been on your website for over 30 days. Not sure if you're aware of this, but the average cost of replacing these individuals, each day this position's open, it's costing you X. And then come in and present yourself as being a solution. Do more research, give more in your outreach, and you'll be surprised by the response. Okay. Now, a couple other things that I really want to drive home with this type of a plan is I really recommend delivering these types of messages via video. You don't have to do that, but I like the video because it separates what most people are doing. The other thing I love about video is it gets people a chance to buy your energy. It gets a chance to know who you are and get a little bit of a flavor of who you are before getting on the phone with you. And sometimes if you do this right, people start to buy and invest in your energy more than they even do the message. And I just don't think that's certain things that text get done very well. Okay, so really look at the video. The other thing is really important, in my opinion, is actually less formal. And I think there's a balance here, right? There's a balance between professionalism, but especially on the video outreach, myself and my team and my clients have a lot more success when we do this, when we're more candid and casual. When we're coming and trying to be stiff and sell, nobody wants to be sold, right? So send somebody a friendly message while dropping authority, while making some certain statements that are going to position your credibility. Yes, but like, be friendly, be natural, be real. You don't have to be a stiff robot. You don't have to be scripted. Actually, don't be scripted, because you're just going to make people cringe if you're doing that type of a process. But the authentic part, and especially right now, is more important than it's ever been. Okay. So, awesome, Dan. Thank you for that feedback. So let's talk about, well, what are the best practices for the actual delivery? So we've talked about the target market, we've talked about the pain points, we've talked about the finding people to reach out to. We've talked about some messaging structures that we can use. Where do I deliver it? So LinkedIn, email are going to be the first two. Okay. LinkedIn is where I would start, and then I would send a couple of messages on LinkedIn. And then I would actually follow up via email. And typically, if I were to follow up via email, it would actually point them back to LinkedIn. I would even ask them for anything. It's like, hey, John, I shot you a quick video. It's in your LinkedIn. I don't want to jam up your inbox here. Take a look at it over there. And so, having a multi-channel follow-up system is incredibly powerful with something like this. We don't want to just rely on one channel where our market's at. So being able to, do follow-up LinkedIn, email is critically important. Now, for those of you that love to pick up the phone, then I would say incorporate that into your outreach strategy. Okay. So what your next step would be is like, well, what is your frequency? What does it look like? So, hey, I'm going to start with a LinkedIn message. That's my first touch point. I'm going to do that. 3 days after that, I'm going to follow up just to that previous LinkedIn message. If they don't reply to that one, then hey, 2 days after that, I'm going to send them an email. If they don't reply to that email, 3 days after that, I'm going to send them another email. If they don't reply to that email, 3 days after that, I'm going to send them another email. If they don't reply to that, I'm going to go back over to LinkedIn and follow up on LinkedIn. If you're not following up that aggressive and you're not winning, that's why. Follow up. Stop overthinking it. Okay. If you're not following, it takes like 8 touch points for people to actually buy something for people. And so many people are just playing small with their follow-up game. If all you did was just follow up a little bit more aggressively. And again, there's a balance there. I'm not saying to send emails every single day. That's not professional. But it's okay to be aggressive in your follow-up. And the whole thinking of like, oh, well, I might rub somebody wrong. It's like, well, if you were actually recruiting from somebody, do you think they want somebody who's tenacious or somebody who's sitting on their hands? I think they want somebody who's tenacious. I would think they want somebody who's going to be able to get after it. Okay. And that's an easy way to prove that. Okay. So that's kind of the idea of like a sequence: multi-channel, LinkedIn, email. And then if you incorporate some phone, if you're good at that, do that. It's not a matter if the phone doesn't work, but this is the best way to use the phone, is having a more warmed up prospect that I've already tapped on a couple of times. And hey, if I even leave a phone, I can do a voicemail where I'm just driving traffic again back to that LinkedIn post. John, don't need to respond. Just send you a LinkedIn post. Take a look at it, and it's just more of a casual conversational way. So there's your multi-channel. Now here's one. Okay. I haven't done this yet personally, but it is something that's on my 2024 agenda. And I think it will come back, and I invite you to do this yourself. And it's snail mail. Who's getting it anymore? Nobody. Who's getting any worthwhile snail mail? Very few people. I don't know about you, but I mean, when I was young, I used to love opening up the mail, because there was always, when we were young, we're waiting on that gift card from our grandmother or something like that. When you get old, we're always waiting for bills. So if we were that one person that kind of sent them something cool, special, and unique, you might capture their attention with some old school snail mail. So that actually comes from Chet Holmes' Dream 100 strategy. My boy Dana Derricks also has a Dream 100 strategy, where snail mail, kind of this old school approach, is incredibly effective to reach your prospects. So keep that one in mind as you guys are building out a strategy like this. So yeah, just got a good comment there. Love snail mail, big believer. So I'm wrapping up here, guys. Go in the comments. Let me know if you have any other questions, if you want any more details, about what I've just shared with you here today. Yeah. So that's a great question, Laura. And I think this is like a big thing, whether it comes into snail mail address or a phone number, right? It's almost like the same because of how automated phone systems work now, how everyone's kind of, I don't say everyone, but a lot of companies are remote. So yeah, I mean, I don't, I don't have a very specific solution for you at this point in time, but I think the easiest thing that I would say right away is, hire a researcher. You can hire somebody on, Fiverr or Upwork or online jobs. .ph and hire a researcher that goes out and just grabs that information for you. It wouldn't be the weeds I'd want me or my team digging into. And I'm sure that there's a snail mail tool. But like I said, this is not a strategy that I've incorporated fully myself yet. So I'd be lying to you if I knew if I was sharing anything else at this point. But thank you. You're giving myself some homework. So yeah, and I'm talking more actually just taking what I can get, Laura. So home addresses are probably, like you're saying, those are going to be a little bit fewer, farther to come by. But I might just try to hit them at their corporate address, even though they might be remote. So that's where everything that we do, we can make a case of why somebody would read it or why somebody wouldn't. So yeah, all right, cool. Looking at this. Good. Thank you, Bria. Yeah, you can do Loom videos, Mike. But you don't, yeah, you can send the URL in a regular message, and it's actually better if you're connected with people. Because if you send that link, that Loom video URL as a message, what it does is it does populate that thumbnail in LinkedIn. So if you're sending Loom videos or using another type of video outreach platform on LinkedIn, typically when you copy and paste the link, it doesn't populate it right away, but typically, within a couple of seconds, it will populate the thumbnail. I also recommend providing a little bit of context around what's in that video. And also making sure that that video title that you can do on Loom is hyper personalized. Yeah, whatever, Niner fan thing. I don't know who this one just says LinkedIn user, so I'll have to get after you after this one. Go Niners. Yeah, like I said, Mike, I really recommend Loom for that. So, I'm not sure, why a lot of you guys are here today. I'd imagine that for some of you, you're watching this training maybe just to look for another nugget, or some of you are watching this training because, business wasn't what it was. I've successfully helped, several hundred recruiting firms now increase their revenue through outbound strategies like this, where we combine them with traditional inbound marketing strategies using what we call the relevant recruiter method. So if you want to skip the guesswork of a system like this and you want to start winning right now and you want to take your business in your own hands, then drop a comment below, send me a direct message. We'll set up a free phone call. I'll share my system with you. But that's going to start first with me understanding your business, your pains, problems, frustrations specifically, and actually see if I can actually help you out. If I can, great. We'll share that to you. If not, this call is going to be incredibly valuable for you either way. So there's really nothing for you to lose here. So go ahead, let me know yeah, you know what? Actually, Victoria, thank you for that. Drop me a direct message or drop me a comment if you want me to reach out. But also, if you can, as we sign off from here, let me know what your little nugget or takeaway was. And give me a little like or comment from this. I'll be back next week with another, I think I'm going to do a training, and then Alexis and I are going to do another training here in a couple of weeks. Got some good guests coming up here for the month of February. So appreciate you guys. Go out there, keep winning, stay in action. And if you want results and you want them quicker and you don't want to do the guesswork, and you want to win, reach out to me. We're doing it every single day. And before you reach out, if you're guessing if I'm good or not, go ahead and look at my recommendations. Go to my website, DonnieGupton.com. Look at my testimonials. Track record speaks for itself. And if you're looking to work with a marketing coach and that's done this, proven for the recruiting industry, I'm your guy. So I'm done with my spiel. Thank you guys. Go in the comments, like it, love it, and let me know if you want that DM, if you want to set up that free